under the blue, embracing sky. Thank you so much, Liz, for your artistry, for your imagery, for the way that your music combines with words to put us in touch with trees, the brothers and sisters that are out there dying and living all the time and bearing witness through their breath, the oxygen that we breathe, through the roughness of their bark, about persistence, resilience, and when we come and emerge into resurrection. I want to tell the story that Jean Link tells about going to Clyde's here in Columbia before it closed. She and Don were having a rare and first meal out in the midst of pandemic with a lot of precaution. And as Jean was eating along, she was listening and not meaning to hear, not eavesdropping, but overhearing at the table nearby something that was being said by a stranger. She related that a woman was talking about the financial hardships of that time and particularly tough news she'd gotten about her employment. She described that as she was driving along, she was so overcome with a sense of despair, she turned off onto a street and started driving down the road. As she looked up from the road, she saw a sign that she did not expect. She saw a sign of hope. It happened to be at the corner of Leaf Treader and Vantage Point Road, right at the corner where our carriage house sits. She saw our two butterflies, the beautiful painted winged butterflies that sit there in the corner and have for much of this pandemic. So she pulled over and felt a new resurgence of possibility and opportunity in the midst of her strain. Now these butterflies have come about thanks to the artistry and industry of Martha Lohaus, of Marty Downey, of Ken Katzen, and many others who supported this and birthed these butterflies into being. I'd seen the idea through a church in Illinois, the Butterfly Church, and their pastor there had put up these wooden butterflies as a sign of hopefulness and resurrection. This was long before pandemic. And the encouragement was for people to see them, to stop, to want to get in front of them. And as they stand in front of them, perhaps with someone shooting a photo or taking a selfie, to see themselves in front of wings, to gain their wings, if you will, in front of community as a sign of ongoing emergence. And so as Jean later relayed this story, I could feel the sense of hope that this woman felt in what felt like a random interaction with butterflies. But I know that this has continually been a source of healing for others in our community. We'd gotten a call into the office saying so. And I saw on Facebook some random person of a group I'm in, their back photo, I don't know this person at all, but their back photo was actually them in front of our butterflies. A way in which we are connected in a spirit of hope in what can feel like a very heavy time. This past week felt very heavy, friends. It seems like as we come to worship each and every Sunday, we could list off all of the ways in which we might feel overwhelmed, or the ways in which fear have been weighing upon what could be our wings. As we saw it and continue to see it, the wildfires that are in the West, Hurricane Laura as it has ravaged the coast there at Louisiana, and the events that have unfolded in Kenosha, Wisconsin, with the shooting of Jacob Blake and the subsequent death of protesters by the hands of a 17-year-old gunman, Kyle Rittenhouse. Our hearts ache, certainly in the middle of pandemic, as we try to make sense of what continues to unfold in a deep time of unrest in our country and how that spills forth into each of our communities. We wonder in distress about what to do. Perhaps there have been days in which you stop your car, turn off down a street looking for symbols of hope to carry you forward. Perhaps that's what we do every evening when we seek to rest and close our eyes. We might take an inventory of the day Try to remember when it was that artistry, symbols of hope, penetrated our beings and gave us the strength that we needed to go into rest, to dream new dreams, and to emerge in what would be our ongoing tomorrow. I know that I find signs of hope in my home as I continually am with my children. There's that herb planter that I talked to you about months ago. We planted 6 different plots of different herbs, and only one plot of all the 6 came up. It was the parsley. I told you then that it had started to emerge, but now it's almost filled the entire herb box. More parsley than we could ever imagine or hope to eat. In the last couple of days, my daughter went out and saw a huge, fat, hungry caterpillar. One of those beautiful ones that we know is going to turn into a butterfly if it makes its way through metamorphosis and cocoon. She's been fascinated by it. And no matter where it decides to make its cocoon, we wish it well on its way for the hope that it has brought us. For it has come in this week of our theme of transformation and butterflies. Sandy Queen, who drops off Sunday school materials every week on our doorstep, knew of this theme and had packaged together the reminder from our elementary days of what it means to have phases of this life. She dropped off a caterpillar that the kids could decorate. She dropped off, along with it, a little package, an envelope in which you could make the symbol be that the cocoon is happening. And then also the kids are called to color butterflies as a reminder of a symbol of the resurrection. When we remember the life of Jesus, we remember the toil and the angst that came after heavy work and ministry, the inching along into a ministry of love. And from the tomb cocoon, we know signs of life emerge and keep coming. It's a part of what it means to be followers of Christ. It's a part of what it means to be resplendent and resilient in community. And so we keep holding these symbols before us. They're on our very corner, made by our very hands, as an inward symbol of what continues to happen as we emerge from the places of our own discomfort, and the outward symbol to a world in its own chaotic goo. I feel like we are in a place of crystallization, that out of the gooey materials of metamorphosis, so much beauty is making a way towards emergence. But it requires our work. It requires our work in an age of protest where we are to be attentive to and listen to the narratives of oppression, to see the ways that they continue to enact themselves in violence in our systems and in the ways in which we order ourselves as government. For we know that ours is a way that is not partisan, is not in one camp or another. Although through our voting we make a stand and we decide how it is that we will support in the time to come. We know that ultimately what we learn from the way of Jesus is a way that is against oppression for all peoples. One who did not align with empire. One who was seeking out the vulnerable on the street. One who was believing in those who could find healing through love. One who was continuing to eat with outcasts. One who continued to defy, in the end, even death itself. This is our continual call, friends. In this month of artistry, we've seen how beautiful artists have found a way of seeing the solidarity that comes in suffering, as God's Spirit would join with us. Lanisha Rouse Tinsley and Renee August and Marlon Hall each showed us in their own unique ways what it is to emerge, not denying the places of suffering, but utilizing the ways that they carve out empathy and resilience and understanding in us to create beautiful expressions that are meant to help bring about our own healing and healing for our world. It requires work. Some of the most beautiful artistry can be the nuts and bolts of new policy. Some of our artistry can mean feeding programs, virtual learning opportunities, in ways in which we are present to our neighbors. this is the scripture that we come to today. Love that casts out fear. In the midst of a very fearful time, how do we make room for love? In the midst of all of the goo of uncertainty, how do we ensure that our wings press out into a new way of becoming? Recently, Phoebe was playing the violin, and after the practice that evening, Adam came in to me and said, Phoebe has just said the most wonderful thing. It's an advertisement for art education, and it's a true belief that children will lead the way. For he was saying that she started playing her own original piece in the midst of her Suzuki lesson. And she's taken to this recently of believing that she could just spontaneously and improvisationally come up with her own tunes. And so at one point, Adam wanted to get his cell phone and to capture it. And she stopped him and she said, "No, don't record." And he said, "Why not? I want to make sure we get it on film." And she said, "Don't need to record. This was the best ever. And I have it when I need it. I have it here." She added, "Daddy, the things I don't need, I just put in the trash." Adam took this to mean that the feeling of her own worth and creativity and what she had produced being worthwhile, when she needs that sense of affirmation and self-soothe and uplift, that she knows where to find it. She knows where to create it, and she knows how to express it in such a way that it can bring her joy and sustain her through the hard times. Sustain her from the times when things aren't just right, when she can't get it just right, or she doesn't feel a certain way. That she can come back to that artist center within her and continually play out of a space of hope. For goodness, she needs hope. She's been with her brother, her little brother, her loud little brother for 5 months. And as they've battled over turf, they've also come around and found a beautiful way in front of a book or in front of Legos to find common ground. Just as we might with our brothers and sisters, when we disagree, we're called to continually find a space in which we can create together. Meaning not only do we have things to outpour, but we trust, even in the disagreement, that others of God's beloved also have things to contribute to a peaceful kingdom. That means even as we protest and we perceive that there are others on the other side of something, we can't deny their humanity. We can't deny that it's going to take all of us, threaded in our mutuality, as Martin Luther King would say, all bound together, moving forward, gaining our wings. So friends, as we would emerge into this time to come, let us give thanks for the butterflies that are witnessing on the corner. They're not just for everybody else who would drive by. They're a reminder of what's in here, motivating us, empowering us, and giving us the strength to stand up in the face of that which ails us, to rebuild prayerfully alongside those who have been devastated by wildfires, to send evidence of recovery for those overcome by the storms of hurricane. And in the face of racism and white supremacy, to continue to stand up, to speak out, and build alongside others. Wings. Institutions. Things that help reflect the inner life and love, the divine image of our Creator. We have a lesson from the trees today, friends. We have a lesson from the butterflies who, in their patience, become something resplendent and magnificent. We take now the time, no matter where you are on this cycle, trusting that God's emergence is with us, and that out of the goo and the messiness of this moment, we are still coming into beautiful being. So take just a few minutes of quiet now as we would have silent meditation. Think about what it is that you interiorly might need to let go of in order to release into something new. We'll share those prayers together in community and see what might emerge from the inside out and from the outside.